Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you kindly for stopping by. My home thoughts start with this rather tasty looking assorted sashimi plate that I found on Bloomberg. Looked very tasty indeed. And then I jump to Maria Rilke. I want to be with those who know secret things or else alone. For beauty is nothing but the beginning of terror, which we are barely able to endure, and it amazes us so because it serenely disdains to destroy us. Every angel is terrible, he says. And then finally, the only journey is the one within. Political reflections how China upstaged the US with a great wall of sand armed only with a set of revolving teeth. The Tianjin-Hao, Asia's largest dredger, has pulled off a stunning naval upset under the noses of the US 7th Fleet. This Chinese vessel led a civilian armada that built almost 3,000 acres of land atop submerged reefs the Spratly Islands, altering a strategic balance that has held since the great naval battles of World War II established US primacy in the Western Pacific. Construction began shortly after the Philippines challenged China's territorial claims in the South China Sea by filing a case at a UN-backed tribunal in The Hague in January 2014. Now, on the eve of a legal verdict, China has achieved its objective, a new geography in the world's busiest commercial waterway, where China's claims overlap with those of 5 neighbors, also including Vietnam, Malaysia. However, the 5 judges decide the case. China has permanently altered the facts on the ground in its favor. The 7 Spratly outcrops on which it has built runways, docks, radar, and other facilities give China the ability to project new military force in its contest with America for regional mastery. Possession, after all, is 9/10 of the law, and China's island building may not have ended the Pentagon fears that Chinese dredgers might be planning a fresh round of construction on Scarborough Shoal that it effectively seized from the Philippines in 2012, which would give the People's Liberation Army a jumping off point just 140 miles from Manila. It's bracing too for China to declare an air defense identification zone in Addis over the entire South China Sea, which China could enforce from its artificial islands. China has pledged to ignore the tribunal's findings. President Obama thinks of himself as a child of the Pacific, born in Hawaii and partly raised in Indonesia, and the pivot to Asia has been his signature foreign policy move, yet he's opted for restraint. Confronting China and the Spratlys by, for instance, trying to chase away the dredgers and their naval protection not only risks war, but could derail cooperation with Beijing on crucial issues like climate change or North Korea. And I concluded by saying China is ratcheting higher in increments, and the US will have to put up or shut up, and putting up will require something more than saber rattling. Then this was in the Wall Street Journal, the crowning achievement of China's dredging in the Spratly. It's a lighthouse on Subi Reef that opened last week. Hacking of the Panama City-based firm Mossack Fonseca could have been done by a US intelligence agency. The CIA, I am sure, is behind this, in my opinion, Birkenfeld said, pointed to the fact that the political uproar created by the disclosures have mainly impacted countries with tense relationships with the United States. There's not one North American individual that I've seen on any list so far. The very fact that we see all these names surface that are the direct quote-unquote enemies of the US, Russia, China, Pakistan, Argentina, we don't see one US name. Why is that? Quite frankly, My feeling is that this is certainly an intelligence agency operation. Turkey has bestowed its highest state medal on King Salman, who was visiting. Welcome to Walking Dead Europe, says Pepe Escobar. Citizens of the EU, as in vibrant civil society manifesting in an array of nations, are increasingly keen on ditching the political EU, whose only functioning trait remains its status as a giant market. The rest is chaos. The euro is now synonymous with massive unemployment. Europeans aged 18 to 34 qualifying themselves as a lost or at least sacrificed generation. European values diluted by the rise of populist extreme right. Pacifism transmuted into hot and cold war from Syria to Russia. And European cities from Paris to Brussels under Salafi jihadi assault. Walking Dead Europe manifests itself in myriad ways, from a no to a referendum in the Netherlands to the creeping possibility of Brexit. What lies ahead is not pretty. There is an element of the sleepwalkers, Christopher Clark's masterful account of how Europe marched to war in 1914. But mostly, a low-budget American show gave away the game. This is Walking Dead Europe. January 2015, I wrote of a Europe off balance. I said even in Paris, the Charlie Hebdo officers, then the Bonnie and Clyde show in and around Paris, and finally the denouement in two separate locations captured the airwaves completely. I said the arrival of the asymmetric threat on the streets of Paris was deeply unsettling and will surely keep Europe off balance and presages a new normal. And I still think that's the case. IMF has cut the Eurozone growth forecast to 1.5% in 2016. International markets, world economy will grow 3.2% this year, down from a projected 3.4% in January. This is the IMF. Growth has been too slow for too long. There is no longer much room for error. But by clearly recognizing the risks they jointly face and acting together to prepare for them, national policymakers can bolster confidence, support growth, and guard more effectively against the risk of a derailed recovery. The IMF cited among the biggest risks as a return of financial turmoil itself, impairing confidence and demand in a self-confirming negative feedback loop. Consecutive downgrades of future economic prospects carry the risk of a world economy that reaches stalling speed and falls into widespread secular stagnation. One bright spot, IMF upgraded its China growth forecast by 0.2 percentage points for this year and next, following signs of resilient domestic demand. Moving on, let's go to the currency markets. There's been a big move here. The euro back below 113.68 when I walked in this morning. Dollar index has surely popped higher. It was at 94.15, but the key level for that index is 93. Dollar yen 109.36, Swissy 0.9567, the pound 142.35. Aussie is down. It was at 77 when I walked in this morning. Now 76.50. Indian rupee 66.365. South Korean won 11.4327. Rial 348.59, Egyptian pound 887.84, and the rand, when I walked in this morning, was back at that level. I said sell it, so I've got to sell it again. It's at 14.68 earlier this morning. I haven't been able to check it right now. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index, and as you can see, the key area about which I've spoken of support is 93. We want to see it base out above that and turn higher. Euro dollar 114, key resistance it held so far. We're back at 113 now. Gold, let me put up a chart of that. That's back below the pivot of 1250 at 1241.55. The oil price surged again yesterday. WTI was back over the 200-day moving average for the first time since the 2014 price collapse. So that's a big move. I think it's gotten ahead of itself, but until we have the Doha meeting, it can stay pretty firm. US Brent crude have struck fresh 2016 highs, but they're down a little bit this morning. And this is all on the back of hoping that major oil producers will agree to a freeze. Let's move on to Africa. South Sudan rebel team says members seized before leader arrives. South Sudanese security officers arrested 16 members of an advanced rebel team in the capital, the spokesman said, about a week before the insurgents' leader Riek Machar. The two men were seized Tuesday while gathering to welcome a deputy rebel chairman to Juba, spokesman William Ezekiel said by phone from the city. Presidential spokesman Ateni Wekateni said the 16 were arrested for moving around Juba without coordinating with security personnel. They are being questioned and may be charged if suspected of wrongdoing, he said by phone. So it's clearly a volatile situation. He hasn't turned up yet, I don't think. Presidential spokesman, Machar said he'll travel to the city on April 18. The DRC cut its 2016 economic growth forecast to 6.6%, the country's central bank said on Friday, down from a previous estimate of 9%. Interesting piece in BD Live, the entities behind dodgy Congo deal, Panama Papers, data leak has unmasked the people originally behind a highly controversial Congolese oil deal that was fronted by President Zuma's nephew, Kulibuse Zuma. South African businessman Mark Wilcox, he was then the CEO of Tokyo Sexuales, Meva Fanda Holdings, and Sexuales served in Zuma's cabinet at the time. The other is the family of controversial Israeli citizen and diamond skion Dan Gertler, personal friend of DRC President Joseph Kabila. Gertler's estate was made public in 2012, 2 years after the deal. Pretty murky it is too. The IMF has cut South Africa's economic growth forecast to 0.6% for economic growth in South Africa for a second time this year. GDP in Africa's most industrialized economy will probably expand 0.6% in 2016 compared with January's estimate of 0.7% and last year's 1.3% growth. Forecast of weaker growth is due to lower export prices, elevated policy uncertainty, and tighter monetary and fiscal policy. On the 8th of February, I said that I expected South Africa to contract or to grow at 0% this year. Cash flees South Africa in the longest run of outflows since 1999. South African investors are shifting cash overseas at the most sustained pace since outflows triggered by the end of apartheid, as political upheaval undermines confidence in the continent's second biggest economy. Money poured out of the country for the 10th consecutive quarter, the final 3 months of 2015, the longest streak of quarterly outflows since the 5 years through September 1999, according to central bank data. An increase in South Africans investing abroad followed a gradual relaxation of exchange controls almost each year since 1995. Investec Asset Management has seen 60% of domestic flows shift into its offshore funds in the first 3 months of this year. And I said on the 14th of December that the markets are not interested in President Zuma's explanations. They're seeing a South African president who has gone rogue. Put up a photograph of him celebrating his 74th birthday yesterday. And then refer you to an article where I was pining on why Barclays was exiting South Africa, and I said essentially it was a vote of no confidence in the president. Also put up a photograph of the South African President Jacob Zuma taking his oath during an inauguration ceremony. The South African all-share up 2.69% so far this year. Dollar rand, I think we're going to see it back over 15 in short order. Egyptian EGX30 up 4.64% this year. Very interesting article that I found from Rencat Man. Is Lagos the most dangerous party city on the planet? It was midnight on Saturday and the club was heating up. Some men were decked out in black tie, others in Ankara print kaftans and matching fezzes. They leaned on the bar in double-breasted sports coats and Windsor knots and glided across the dance floor in high dollar sneakers draped in silver and gold chains. eyeballing women of all shapes and shades who dazzled in designer gowns, slinky dresses, shorts or miniskirts, by turns accentuating or revealing ample curves, long legs, or an elegant neckline. Lagos, for all its money, glamour, and status as the world capital of Afro-pop, seems immune to all that. Thanks to its crime-riddled reputation, it has become the dark frontier of the global party circuit. Now I know. Out in front of Sip Lounge, blinged out revelers, the ajabotas, butter eaters, Yoruba slang for rich kids, stepped from tinted Range Rovers and Lexus SUVs. Lagos is a city of approximately 20 million people, where some 9,000 millionaires float upon a sprawling mass of ajepakos, Yoruba slang that roughly translates as twig eaters. The trappings of true wealth in Lagos include a fat yacht and a mansion in Ikoyi. Bizzle craves both and is angling to open his own clubs to get there. Oweni Koko, he said, that's Yoruba for money is the main thing. And I'll put up some photographs, and then at one point he's describing the driving home, and suddenly this woman goes, "Help me." The driver swerves, narrowly missing her. She spun and fell to her knees on the asphalt. "What the hell?" I yelled. "It's a trap," the driver said, accelerating and leaving her in the dust. "I'm telling you, it's a trap. If we go back, there will be a mob of men who will rob us and maybe kill us." I turned back. Aside from the girl, the street was completely empty. Was he right? Was she bait? Or was she the one in danger? I'd like to say we went back to check, but this was Lagos after all, so we kept driving. Put up a photograph of a woman who walks by the pool at a party hosted by Quillox, a posh wedding in Lekki, filled with guests from the music and film industries, complete with spraying, throwing money in the air in the bride and groom's direction. And another photograph of the streets of Abalande, a rough neighborhood in Lagos, packed at night with club goers. I was responding to an article about Nigeria's president's visit to China, and I was saying Nigerian FX policy remains the elephant in the room, and China or a panda bond is not going to be enough to stop what will eventually become a tsunami of a devaluation. China has offered Nigeria a loan worth $6 billion to fund infrastructure projects, the Nigerian foreign minister said on Tuesday. It is a credit line on the table as soon as we identify the projects, Nigerian Foreign Minister Jeffrey Onyema told reporters. Won't need an agreement to be signed, it is just to identify the projects and we access it. There was no immediate comment from China. Nigerian all share is down 13.98%. It's going to fall a lot further when they get ejected from the MSCI Frontier Index. Nigerian inflation soared to almost a 4-year high of 12.8%. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 4.68% so far this year. Former Mozambican President Joaquim Chissano has admitted to having a connection with the KGB, the former USSR secret services, but denies having been a spy. Chissano says relations were limited, the provision of aid to Frelimo, the ruling party in Mozambique. Kenya's KCB opened to banking deals after third lender collapses, said it has an interest in new market opportunities after a local newspaper reported it may be among potential buyers of Chase Bank Kenya Limited. KCB is open to the potential consolidation in the market, but nothing specific has been pinned down. We continue to pursue various options and opportunities and cannot specifically discuss a particular entity. Business Daily reported that at least 5 companies were interested in buying Chase Bank, including Equity, Centum, Commercial Bank of Africa, and I&M Holdings Limited. Chase Bank collapsed last week after a run by depositors. It's the third Kenyan lender to be seized by authorities since Patrick Njoroge was appointed governor of the central bank in June. Imperial Bank was taken over by the regulators in October. Dubai Bank went into liquidation in August after running out of money. Of course, the central bank is availing a facility to any commercial or microfinance bank that comes under liquidity pressures arising from no fault of its own. That's a key point. Smaller banks in Kenya are starved of liquidity, with 7 of the nation's 42 institutions holding 80% of the financial system's cash. And a few months ago, this was 65%, just to give you an idea of the deposit flight to quality. Police have ordered the arrest of Chase Bank Chairman Zafrullah Khan and his Managing Director Duncan Kabui. CBA are saying, we're not in discussions, we have not evaluated the opportunity. I did an interview on Monday on CNBC. That link is on the website if you want to listen to it. It was predominantly about banking. I wrote that piece over the weekend saying that core banking system is sound. Put up a photograph of Chase Bank clients storming a Kisumu branch on April the 7th. The former central bank governor, Njuguna Ndung'u, faces a probe over the banking crisis. That's clear. It was a more permissive environment before Patrick Njoroge. The NSE has suspended Chase Bank's 10 billion shilling bond from trading. Notices hereby given on the suspension of trading of the Chase Bank fixed rate notes listed on the fixed income securities market segment of the NSE, in line with directives received from the Capital Markets Authority effective April 8, 2016. Smaller banks, as I was saying, in Kenya are starved of liquidity, with 7 of the nation's 42 institutions holding 80% of the financial system's cash, according to the regulator. I wrote a piece on the 4th of April called The Bifurcation at the NSE. Do take a look. I was speaking about Barclays Bank, which has slumped 24.26% this year and is at a multi-year closing low. National Bank down 36.5% so far this year. The shilling stays Teflon, as I wrote in December. Kenya Airways' boss, Bubi Gunze, has told the BBC that the airline will return to profitability in a year. Bullish talk out of Gunze. If you're interested in Kenya Airways, the link is up on the website. Nairobi All Share down 0.67% year to date. NSE 20 down 2.86% year to date. Remember, it was above 4,000 not too long ago. We're back at 3,925. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I'm always grateful.